Welcome to this HelloID webinar brought to you by Tools Forever. Today we'd like to give you an overview of the new functionality in HelloID. We encourage you to ask questions. You can do this via the WebEx chat option. You can find the option here. At the end of the demonstration, your questions will be answered. I'd like to turn this over to Cheered Signin, HelloID Product Manager. He will explain and demonstrate the new HelloID functionality. Enjoy, and don't forget to post the questions.
Okay, Jamie, thank you for the introduction. Everybody, welcome to this September release update webinar. And again, I'd like to give an update on the functionality released last weekend and give you a little bit of heads up on the functionality that's coming. And first I start off with a PowerPoint presentation, and then I'd like to continue with showing and demo you the software. Okay, I'd like to remember that you can also find all the documentation on docs.helloid.com. You can also find more professional videos on the functionality I'm going to show you today. Okay, let's start off with the PowerPoint. And first start off with service automation. Remember, we have three modules in HelloID: service automation, provisioning, and access management. So first start off with service automation, and we released an interesting functionality that's to manage forms from the API. So this really helps you to create a set of forms. It's particularly interesting for multi-tenant situations, managed service providers that have multiple forms that they want to distribute to other portals. And you can use the API to do that in creating forms. I will show you in a minute how you can do that. Important to note that we are not really going to support multi-tenant situations with the UI, not a management portal, but we do support that fully with almost close to 100% with APIs. So for multi-tenant MSP situations, you can manage all the stuff with APIs. Please let us know if you have any requests in this area, and then you, as an MSP, you want to have more functionality for the APIs. A very interesting functionality is now, this is bi-directional because the next point will be the other way around. But now you can load data from the network, basically from a data source, to any component in your form. And the data source is a new phenomena. Let me turn on the PowerPoint pointer. The data source, and that will be in the next release, in the October release. You can also manage that. In the current release, you cannot do that, but with the data source, you can connect, for example, PowerShell script to retrieve data from the network to a data source, and the data source is actually being connected to form components. And it will be making you more flexibility in setting up retrieving data from the network and passing that to components in your form. The next item is the other way around, that you can also use the component as input to the data source. So you can pass information, filtering information, for example, search for a particular user or a particular process in a data source, so that you use it as an input. And of course, this one is the other way around. You load data, show it, and now you use the data more as a parameter for your data source. Okay, next module, provisioning. And remember, this is still not in production, but we are going to release this by the end of the year. So the first production install we're going to do in January 2020. And a lot of functionality is already available, and we continue to create new functionality. But by the end of the year, we're going to do the first production install. And functionality we are releasing, and we already released in September, is source complex mapping, so that you can manipulate data from your HR system to the HelloID vault, and then you have more flexibility in doing that. You can also correlate account with identity information in the vault. That basically is interesting if you already have a network, and a lot of clients already, of course, have that. They already have accounts in the network, and they want to correlate that with the HR data, so that you're not going to create new accounts, but you're actually going to update the accounts that already exist. And of course, then you need to correlate that data with your account, with your identity information. We have a more detailed overview for persons. We continue to improve this section and show you more and more information about the information in the vault, data from HR, but also the data that is available in the network. We also have included now Azure AD groups as memberships for the entitlements. Now, so you can set business rules based on HR data to set which user is going to get which group membership. And again, I will show you shortly in a demo. Okay, remember that if you, of course, we strongly invite you to test this functionality, but it's not turned on in your portal. And remember, you can only do this in preview. You need to request that to iSupport@toolsforever.com. It's not for production, it's only in preview. And by the end of this month, in October, if I'm correctly, it will also be available in production environment. But today it's only for preview. And you need to be careful that with every upgrade, your configuration data might be wiped. Last sheet, that's on access management, and I'm thrilled. I'm very, very happy with the push to verify. It's the functionality that of course, you could already use a soft token on your phone. You could use the Google Authenticator or the Microsoft Authenticator, but you had to retype the number from your phone onto the portal, which of course is rather inconvenient. With the push to verify, we developed an iOS and Android app, and now with the login, you only have to push a button on your phone, and then you actually prove that you have your second factor, your phone, in your possession. And again, I will demo that in a minute. Also, a more complex thing for the configurable relay state, sorry for that. And then it's if that you can pass from you can use the browser to rewrite URL after authenticating. So instead of going to one URL, you have multiple URLs you can send the user to after authentication. Not going to demo this, is rather technical, and this is more easy to understand, but I'm also not going to demo this. Is the pre-fill of the username, and it helps you if a user fills in, for example, the email address and logs in on the Azure portal, you can pass that information to HelloID, so then you don't have to retype as an end user the username or actually the email address again. Okay, so let me demo the software. And of course, I kindly remember, if you have any questions, please fill it in on the WebEx portal, and I will answer all your questions at the end of the demo. So let me demo the software. So the first item I'd like to show you is, a module actually, is HelloID Service Automation. And the first item I showed you in the PowerPoint was to manage the API. And again, I don't want to mention this too often, but it's important to look at docs.helloid.com, and here is API documentation. And of course, here are all the APIs that are available in HelloID, and this is new, dynamic forms, so you can create, delete, edit, or actually the forms from by using the API. And you can also find videos here. I think I also like to show you that. These are the videos we are created on the new functionality, so you can use these videos to look at the functionality we just released in September, and this webinar will be uploaded here. So this is also for reference purposes to you, perhaps to rewatch this webinar if you like. Roadmap information is important because here all the new stuff that's coming in the coming months. And I'm very thrilled about this functionality. I'm very thrilled about the soft token we have released in September, but this will be in October. And then you can use low-cost hardware two-factor authentication. Very interesting functionality. Okay, so let me go back to the API, and I use Postman, and here I have multiple options. I also like to show you this. This is to retrieve group information from HelloID by using the API, but I like to show you this one. And here I can use, I have renamed this one webinar September. So I will create a form where here is the definition in JSON format to with this name. So let me send this one, example webinar September. So go to the browser. I need to go to login. Self-service forms. Here it is. This is one I just created. And if you go to here, this is the definition. This is basically exactly the same as this. So if I'm changing the form, if I make, of course, make modifications here, you go switch here, and then you can use this definition in your API to copy this to any portal you like, or use that as a base version. Okay, let me show you how you can connect a data source to any component. So you can actually use this. I created one example one. I think that's group management. So there's this group management form, and I have multiple items I'd like to show you here. The first thing I'd like to show you is that you can retrieve data and update that information. So I run a PowerShell script and I update and show the results in this text box. Pretty weird example, but it's good to show you that you can retrieve information. For example, you want to retrieve somebody's phone number, email address, and you want to show that. And I will use this as an example. It's pretty easy to show you. And I want to show the description. Now it's running the PowerShell script and showing the first line from the PowerShell script into this field. So let me go to the PowerShell script. It's basically a task. Window. There it is. So here's the task, and if I copy paste this, go to PowerShell editor, already opened that one, to run this script, and I use the description that's here, application information. That's basically being shown right here. And of course I can display any information I retrieve from the network into this component. And I'm using the text box now, but I can also use, of course, the script, etc., etc. So I can also do other things here. The nice thing is that I think you can build now everything you like in a form. It's very powerful. And what I do, for example, here is I can search for a user. Let me search for Gert, Dutch name. And now what I've done is I connected this component to this component. This is basically a grid. So I'm using this as an input to execute a PowerShell script to fill in information from the network into this grid. So basically I'm searching for Active Directory users, and anything that matches Jan is being shown in this script. And I think this is very powerful. So now you can search for users, search for Windows services, whatever you like. You can use that as an input parameter for another script and displaying that information. Basically, I can make a selection here, and this component is being input for this component. So this is not passing information to a script, but this is just connected as an input parameter for this script again. And now it's just retrieving the group memberships. If I make a selection here and here, it's also being updated, this text box. And if I do submit, you can actually see that this is the selected users, this is the selected group. And of course, if I connect this to a product and a task, I can actually remove this group membership from this user. And that functionality is already for a longer term available in product. So this is good news. I think now you can build any form you like, because you can filter information, you can pass information from the form into a PowerShell script as a parameter. You can basically search for particular information or select information. You can connect one component to the other, and then pass information again to perform an action in the network. Very powerful. I think you need to play with this functionality to really get it. Also, a lot of help will be available, and of course you can also always send an email, or you can use online help, very practical. If you fill in the question here, it will be automatically forwarded to our help desk, and you will get immediately response, because we can see that you're coming from an admin portal and that you are a current client and that you're actively working with our software and you want to have support. So you get instant support on things that you are trying to accomplish. Okay, so let me go to the other items. I'm very enthusiastic, but I have more I'd like to show you today. And the other is provisioning. So let me go to provisioning. And remember that it's only available yet in preview in next month, or, well, if it's not available in October, it will of course be in November, but we're very close to putting this in, also available in your production environment. Now, you still have to do this, and now I'm going to the provisioning section. What we have done here is we have extended the input complex mapping. So here you have this option here, and the mapping is already available, but now you have options to make it even more complex, more powerful. So here I can add a field, and for example, I do the location name, and now I can map this on information from the HR system, and I can map that to a field. Very stupid example to do a display name. I can also use the complex, and now I can use the JavaScript as you're already familiar with, and I can use fields from the source, and this is of course auto-completion, and I can do any manipulation from the HR to, for example, I think I do display name again, but now I want to make sure it will to uppercase. I don't know if this is the right syntax, but now I'm actually using the JavaScript to convert the display name to uppercase and put that in the HelloID vault on the location name. So this is the complex mapping. I'm not too sure if this is already working, but then you can also use the preview information, and that's, I'm not going to spend time on it today because it's not being released yet, but this will be definitely be available in October. So then you can see if you make modifications to the mapping, you can search for a person, actually see what the end result is. Let me go to the next item, that's Correlate account with identity information, and you can find that here. So you can have the correlation information to look up accounts that already exist, and you want to map that on the HR data. And in my example, I selected this person information from the HelloID vault, and this is account information already available in the network, basically in Microsoft Active Directory. And I'm using the employee ID field per user and connected to the external ID from the HR system. And in the correlation report, I can see what the result is. I can read faster, and I have very limited information in my environment, so this is not actually showing information, but here you could see that if there was a match, it would show it here. Going to the personal details overview. This is more advanced now, so I can search for a person. I think the one I'm using is Keith. There we go. So I can see detailed information here. This is all, of course, coming from the HelloID vault. I can see what contracts are available, and I can also see what the primary contract is. So here I can also see which rules are applicable. These, of course, are the business rules, and I created this as an example. So but this business rule is actually applicable for Keith. This one is not. I can also go to the configuration editor and make modifications to that role. The other item is that I can use, I need to go here because I can now also add groups in Azure as entitlements. So I need to add, go to Microsoft's Azure ID, and here I can also, here are all the groups that are available in Azure ID. I can add them as an entitlement to this business rule. Basically, that means that based on information from HR into the HelloID vault, and based on that attribute information, I can say that you're also going to be a member of a particular group. It's a form of access governance or role-based access control. So based on this information, this filter, I can set these groups to the people that are in this group. And for example, this is for this example only Keith. Okay, let me go to the last item, and that is access management. And I'm very thrilled about this new functionality, and that we have to push the verify app, so that you don't have to retype the number again and again if you want to, if you use the two-factor. And you had to do that with the Google Authenticator or the Microsoft Authenticator by retyping that number. So let me show you this new functionality. Different browser. Let me go to preview portal. And now I'm logging in as this user. And let me also bring up my phone. And here is the new app. And the HelloID Google Authenticator. And I also have this user here at the top. That's Koos Baartman. So let me close this app again. Now I'm logging in. And here you see the pop-up. So I can click and click here. Now I'm logging in. That's it. Without retyping the number, and a nicely two-factor authentication. Really nice, literally low cost. You don't have to really invest anymore in expensive two-factor manufacturers to have two-factor soft token available in HelloID. The other items were more complex, and I don't want to show you, but I think this is the most interesting functionality today that we have available. Very proud to show you that. Okay, so let me see if there are any questions. And hold on, just go to my little screen and see if there are questions available. Yes, there are two. Let me start with the first one. So first, let me bring up the PowerPoint. So, questions. So there are two questions, and let me look them up. 1 second, please. There we go. The first question is, when will the service automation be available for production? And I think, of course, service automation is available for production for more than a year already, but I think you're primarily referring to the form section. The form section was also available already for production for quite some months now, but I think as we are sitting today with the functionality, you really can make very sophisticated forms, as you probably already been used to in IAM or in Umra. I think the only component that's really important that's still missing is the group membership, but that component will be available in the coming October release. And I think at that time we have 100% functionality available to build any form you like to manipulate data in the network. Thank you for that question. The second and last question. This is an early adopter user. I see that the documentation for service automation is not fully up to date. When will be it available? Very resourceful, and you're quite right. The documentation for a lot of functionality in service automation is fully documented, but not for the form section. And the particular reason for that is that we want to complete the data source functionality first, because that will have an impact on the GUI, and otherwise we had to do the documentation twice. So we first want to finish the data source functionality and then make the documentation for the form section completely up to date again. Okay, yes, I think this is the last question. Thank you so much for your attention, and really looking forward for the next webinar, the next release in October, actually, and the beginning of November, of course, and with some very, very nice functionality. I think where we are now with HelloID, we're really up to steam, delivering a lot of functionality to you. And of course, this will be all free, available in the modules you already purchased and using from Tools Forever and HelloID. Okay, thank you again for your attention. And if you have any questions, please send it to us by isupport@toolsforever.com. Thank you and have a very, very nice day. Thank you. Bye-bye.